What's up, everybody? Welcome back, and we are joined by, for the third time, Miss Teresa Walker. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing, Lee?
And as one John Ward used to say, it is football time in Tennessee.
It absolutely is, and it's crazy. I know that this game's been sold out since a week ago, right? And if there's an AFC Championship game, it's already sold out as well. Something that it feels like this franchise has been building to. 2 years ago they had the playoff run to the AFC Championship game. Every game was on the road. They played four straight road games, with the championship game being the fourth. Last year COVID, they couldn't have Nissan Stadium packed with fans because everyone was trying to be safe and careful. But now the game, I'm expecting the loudest atmosphere in that building for Titans game in a very long time. Maybe since I'm going to go back to the divisional win over Pittsburgh in January of 2003. And yes, the Music City Miracle, because when the official announced that the touchdown stood, that was one of the louder buildings I've ever been in. So, shoot, they're having a pep rally on Friday night. The Titans are. They're doing watch parties. Now, I'm very curious to see what the watch parties do, like what the Predators did in 2017. They're going to be doing it on Lower Broadway, the Hall of Fame Park, across the river from Nissan. I'm curious to see how many people get their gear on and come out to root just to be part of the atmosphere. It was real easy to turn out 50,000 people in June of 2017. It was hot, but it wasn't freezing. So it's going to be a cold day Saturday. Very curious to see what the turnout is. But I'm going to say this: it also feels like this team, the Titans, have been they've been building to this moment. And Mike Vrabel said earlier today that on Thursday, that building, that this team's been working to play games into 2022. And that's plural. So I'm looking forward to this divisional matchup, because I think it'll be a very good game.
And then there's one guy we have to talk. We have to talk Derrick Henry, and you probably know more than what we know. Is there a chance he goes this week?
At this point, I think we would all be stunned if Derrick Henry does not play in this game. Mike Vrabel said Thursday that the decision, will come, on Friday. They'll do a walkthrough on Friday, and then they'll make that decision. So, barring any setback, and seeing the video of, we're under media limitations. So today was my day not to go out to practice. But Jim Wyatt's video of him he looks ready to go, gauging off of the warm-ups. He talked to us yesterday. In 25 seasons of covering this team, we can't recall a player who's still on IR, talking to the media. So it's like all signs certainly seem to be showing him to be a go on Saturday, which is January 22, 2022, for the man who wears 22. The numbers are adding up there, and it just seems like, again, all signs are pointing to yes.
And as you were saying, the whole number 22, most people don't realize this. So Derek possibly making his return on 1/22/22. He wears 22. And then the big stat, 22 years since he played in the Super Bowl.
It is amazing that the number 22 is coming up as much as it is, right? But here's the thing: once the ball kicks off on Saturday, numbers won't mean a thing except what's on the scoreboard. So, and it feels like Mike Vrabel has been setting them up to this point, reminding them even since the end of the Houston game, that okay, now we're in the single elimination tournament. We got the bye. We're in the Elite Eight. And the Tennessee Titans, 4-0, NFL best mark among the divisional teams, against other divisional teams. They're 4-0 against the Bills, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Rams. That's the best mark among the teams that are still playing at this point. And also, we know some of the other numbers that they, 8 wins against teams with winning records during the regular season. That is, the most ever in the NFL. Now, little asterisk, it was the first 17 game season, helping make that possible. But the Saints were the team that were added to their schedule this year. So it's, he's been sending the message: any turnover, any penalty, any play is magnified. I mean, ask the Dallas Cowboys about not handing the ball to the official on Sunday at the end of their wild card game. I'm going to bet that Mike Vrabel has probably gone over that situation and reminded his players, if we're in a late game, late half situation, hand that ball to an official and get back to the line of scrimmage. So it's fun to see how things are kind of coming back around, so to speak. But Lee, another number: Titans are 1-3 in divisional games at home.
And another stat that I don't know if you brought up: the Titans are 8-0 when they've had extended rest or a bye week.
That's a big one. They're tied with Pittsburgh for the best mark over the last 4 seasons in that category, and they're coming off a bye week. So, did they do all the right things? Kevin Byard told us on Tuesday that that's been the message. Watch film, rest, get your conditioning, do everything that you can do to be physically and mentally ready for this moment. Knowing, I mean, the lessons I think from last year are right there. It doesn't matter what your seat is, doesn't matter if you're at home, one game and you're done. And, these players want to keep playing. They don't want to have their season end the way it did a year ago, for sure.
And of course, going back to the 2019-2020 season, Baltimore proved that. They had the first round bye, and we booted them out in Baltimore.
And the veterans who were on that team then, I think, have been sharing that message with. They've got 35 players who have playoff experience. It'll be 36 once Derrick Henry is activated, as we expect. And that's a lot of guys, and a bunch of these guys were in Baltimore. So yeah, and with that's the thing. It only matters how you play once that ball is kicked off. Tennessee Titans, they were the number 1 seed in 2000. They were the number 1 seed in 2008. And yet, playing the Baltimore Ravens, they turned the ball over too many times and, just could not find a way to make the plays that mattered in those games. They were tight games, close games, but that's the thing, finding a way to get through to make the play. It's not easy in this postseason. I mean, we've seen in the Super Wild Card round that see all these teams come out, the Chiefs, the Bills, getting on, the San Francisco 49ers, who had to win their final game to get into the postseason, trying to, just starting games, guns a-blazing and scoring points left and right. So you better be ready. And one thing we've seen with the Titans is sometimes they've been a little slow to get going in the first quarter. And that's something that they can't have happen against the Bengals, because the Bengals are really good at putting up some points.
And speaking of the Bengals, they have probably one of the best wide receivers in Jamar Chase.
Oh, they do. He set a franchise record. He's a Pro Bowler as a rookie with 1,455 yards. But the Tennessee Titans have a guy, cornerback Christian Fulton, knows him really well. They've been friends since they were kids. They went to the same high school together. They won a national title at LSU together. Christian Fulton came out early, and Jamar Chase ended up sitting out the 2020 season with COVID, and then entered the draft this last year. I'm sorry. And so if I'm Shane Bowen, I'm feeling pretty good about the fact that I've got a cornerback who knows that guy pretty well. So, he's gone up against him in practices. He's played with him, and, they text through the season. They're not talking this week, but they know each other really well. And then again, that's a secondary that is healthy. Jack Rabbit Jenkins was added to the injury report Wednesday with an ankle, but he was back practiced fully on Thursday. So, you've got Buster Screen, who's practiced all this week. So, and then you've got Hooker and Kevin Byard, who's an all-pro. So, it's funny. I heard one of the national shows kind of talking about, he didn't sound too sure about that Titans defense. And it's like, seriously? How much have you watched this team? Because they put they're 6th in third down efficiency and getting off the field. They're in the top 12 when it comes to red zone efficiency. And yes, the Bengals are very, very good inside the red zone. So are the Tennessee Titans defensively. So, yards allowed. I mean, they joined the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints, as being, the only NFL teams to be in the top handful of several categories. The key categories: points allowed, Titans are sixth. So, yes, they've got their hands, because it's not just Jamar Chase. Here's the challenge for the Titans: if they focus too much on Jamar Chase, there's also T. Higgins, a guy who played at Oak Ridge High School, and he had 1,000-yard season in his second year in the league. Tyler Boyd was he could see 1,000-yard season from where he was at, and then they also have a tight end in C.J. Azuma, who put together an impressive year, and I think 5 touchdown catches. We saw him in the wild card game make a big catch in that game and do the icky shuffle in the end zone. So, the Titans are going to have to be on point, because they cannot risk focusing too much on Chase. The other guy, somebody else will hurt them if they do.
And speaking of the injury report, you have to say this is the healthiest the Titans have been in a long time.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, think about this. I'm looking at this injury report. There's only one player who's questionable, and that's Teair Tart. Now, he missed the final game in Houston with an ankle injury. He was limited all week. Naquan Jones, though, missed that Houston game, and he practiced fully. He's a go. So this is an injury report that is 5 players long. One of them, Derek Roberson, he didn't practice Thursday, but it wasn't an injury. It was not injury related. So technically, you've got 4 players on the injury report. I'd have to go back and check. This may be the lightest, thinnest, shortest injury report for this team since the opening week of the season. So yes, they're healthy. And again, they've used 91 players this season. And I asked Shane Bowen yesterday, especially on the defensive side, how much that helped them get ready for this season. And the idea that maybe, how much does that help them? And he said that they were able to define, specific skill sets that will help them, in what they call sub packages, putting guys out there to do, maybe 3rd and 3 or 3rd and long, and just to bring guys in that'll allow them to rotate in, and they know they've seen these guys in action. They know who can do what in what situation, and that's going to be, that at this time of year is a very big important thing.
And now let's go to the Cincinnati side of things. Stanley Morgan is their only questionable guy. And of course, it was unsure if Trey Hendrickson was going to go this week because of that concussion.
But he was cleared, and he's going to play. Zach Taylor told everybody that today. Now, they did lose Larry Ogunjobi, a defensive tackle, was put on IR on Monday. And they do have Sam Hubbard, who has some rib issue. So their defensive line is hurting a bit. And, I don't know if you saw, but Josh Jacobs with the Raiders was able to run the ball and get some production against Cincinnati last week. And, that's something the Titans do very, very well. They were 5th in the league in rushing, despite not having the NFL's leading rusher, for the previous 2 seasons. And when he went out of the season on October 31st, and he still finished 9th in the league with 937 yards. So as Mike Vrabel said Monday, we run the ball, we're going to run the ball. And, now the challenge is, can Cincinnati do enough to try to slow them down?
And going back to that Raiders game for Cincinnati, they let Josh Jacobs go over 6 yards a carry.
And we have seen Deontay Foreman, Derrick Henry, Dontrell Hilliard. All 3 of those running backs can tear off big runs when they're given an opportunity. And I'm going to mention the Tennessee Titans offensive line. They may be as healthy as they've been, because they've been able to finish the last couple of games, I think, with the same starting 5 that, which, it's been a revolving door much of the season for that unit. Shoot, the Thursday night game on December 23rd, they were down, they didn't have the left half of their offensive line, and you had rookie Dylan Radins making his first start, essentially as the 3rd option for that team. So that's another key for this run game, as they try to get Derrick Henry back into gear quickly on Saturday.
And one thing that you were talking about, Titans have the tendency to start slow. So, and this is going to go straight into the next thing. The keys to win this game. Number one for me, time of possession.
Oh, and the Tennessee Titans are second in the NFL to only the Green Bay Packers in time of possession. And that's where the run game helps you in January because, how do you slow down a high powered offense or a talented quarterback? The Titans used to try to do it against Peyton Manning, keep him off the field, play keep away. That's the biggest, easiest way to slow somebody down.
Number two for me, limit the mistakes and the huge plays by that Bengals offense.
Oh, absolutely. As much as the Bengals have not turned the ball over. Their only turnovers over these last 5 games were a couple of muff punts. You've got to force some turnovers there. Joe Mixon is a guy who's got a long streak of not turning the ball over, but so getting the ball through turnover, maybe a strip sack, forcing a interception is going to be key. But the Titans are going to have to take care of the ball as well.
And what you just said goes straight into my third key. Take control of this game defensively.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, we've seen this that over the last few weeks, the Titans have, been among the best in the NFL. Fewest points allowed, rushing yards, things like that. This is going to be their true test. Can they get out there and shut down the run fast enough so that they can just go send those 4 guys after Joe Burrow? I'm very curious to see what they do. And again, they've got David Long back and Zach Cunningham, and we've seen the speed that they bring to the field and how much that helps that defense. So again, they've got their pieces available. And they're going to have to do they're going to have to play a major role for the Titans to win.
And I was watching a show last night, one of the Titans podcast shows last night, and they made a very good point. The Bengals are 4-0 when Joe Burrow throws for under 200 yards.
Well, but I'm going to throw out another thing. The Cincinnati Bengals are 0-7 on the road in the postseason. So, I mean, we're at a point where we're tossing around all these numbers. All that's going to matter is how they perform on Saturday. And for the Bengals, the pressure is going to be on Joe Burrow. I know he's confident. He's a cocky young man. I mean, he plays with that cool swagger. He won a national championship for LSU. He's put together an incredible season. He led the Bengals to a to the win last week, and he has his sights set on a championship. Doing it in your second season, going on the road against the number 1 seed, that's a handful. Not saying he can't and won't do it, but it's going to be challenging.
And, of course, I put out my score prediction. I want to hear from you. What is yours? Titans are 3.5-point favorites.
I haven't thought much about a score at this point, but in playoff games, except unless you're the Chiefs and the Bills, are usually kind of low scoring. But I would not be surprised to see maybe 28-17 on Saturday.
Well, that's going along the same lines. I said 28-24 Titans.
And that's the thing. If there's a turnover or two, maybe you get a pick six or something like that. But again, the start to this.
And of course, we've said it this whole time. Titans need to do their job.
Oh, absolutely. They have to do their job, and that means taking care of the ball, avoiding penalties. Or as Mike Vrabel likes to put, don't do dumb blank to hurt the team.
And of course, I pulled that from a thing from Bill Belichick when the Patriots went for their Super Bowl win. I think it was Super Bowl 51 in 2015. He preached that whole playoff time. Do your job.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. Don't do more. AJ Brown talked about this and said that it's do what you do. Don't think that because it's suddenly a playoff game that I have to try to do more and reach out for that extra yard. To get what you can. Just try to treat it as another game, and just That's the thing. Where do you get into trouble? When you're trying to fight for yardage. Take the yards that you've got. Don't try to go through three guys to get one more yard and risk having the ball ripped out. Those are the kind of things that you have to not do.
And the other thing, coming from my point of view, field goals will not get it done against this offense. You
No,
you have to put up touchdowns every time you can get them.
absolutely. I mean, when has this team gotten into trouble? It's when they have not been able to get touchdowns. The Jets game, the Texans game. When they lose is when they're not going down there and finishing off drives. And no offense to Randy Bullock, who was with the Cincinnati Bengals when the Titans lost to them in November of 20. You don't want to put it on his foot. He has struggled in the from 40 to 49, and you just don't want to risk that at this point.
And the Titans, and even I'm taking something from Pete Carroll. You have to go 1-0 each week. Right now, the record's 0-0.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And I think that's part of that message Mike Vrabel's been sending, that it doesn't matter what you did to get here. What matters is what you do from here on out. And, it is 0-0. Now, for AP purposes, we, accumulate those records. The Bengals are 11-7. But, that's the key, is you have to, go out there one game, one moment in time, 60 minutes, and see what you can accomplish. And, I think I go back to, again, I think that's been part of the message he's been sending for the last 2 weeks, getting him in that mindset of understanding that there's no tomorrow. It's just today. And if we want to earn another game, we've got to go do it on the field.
And as me and a bunch of the Titans fans have pointed out, we're 2 wins away from going to Inglewood. 2 wins. That's all we need.
And for a season with all the injuries that they've had, getting Derrick Henry back as we expect, it just feels like things are setting up for that potential for the Titans to have a finish, to try to finish the season in Los Angeles. It feels like that game against the Rams maybe was that a Super Bowl preview. It's kind of crazy to think of, but I remember the Rams-Titans game in the 1999 season, and I wrote it. It's like, ooh, this could be a Super Bowl preview. It turned out being just that. But that's the thing. You're 2 wins away, but you can't think, okay, it's just 2 wins. You also have to make sure, again, that you're doing everything you normally do to try to win the game. Otherwise, it's going to be woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Well, Teresa, I think that's about it. Thank you for, of course, taking time out of your schedule, even though I know it can be crazy for you this time of the year.
Well, Lee, thanks for your understanding, and I appreciate you moving this up a little bit. I've been so busy today; I haven't had a chance to eat today. So, supper, lupper, whatever is waiting for me. And this is a fun time of the year when people want to talk about the work that you're doing and the team that you're covering. And hopefully, I have people wanting to talk after this week. I've been on this precipice twice before, and I've covered 2 AFC championship games. One was in Jacksonville, one was in Oakland Coliseum. So we'll see if Nissan Stadium's getting ready to host this franchise's first AFC championship game at home, if they can take care of business on Saturday.
And you have to knock on wood on that.
Well, I'll find a way to keep myself busy. I'm going to the Super Bowl for the Associated Press, regardless of whether or not the Titans advance. It would be a lot more fun to cover a team that I know so well.
Well, everybody, that was Teresa Walker from the Associated Press, and we'll be back right after this.